You said? Everybody said?
We all set.
We're set in the room. Can we give a round of applause to Karyn Parsons and Mychal Threets, please? Gosh, it's one of those moments where it's you manifest it, you speak it into existence. You may not know this, Mychal, but Karyn and I, we kind of talked about having the opportunity to have you in studio and to chat books and literacy a while ago, and to watch it all come to fruition. It's like the best thing ever. So thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I
So
I
excited.
truly appreciate the smiles, the love for letting people know that, man, books exist, and we need to actually, we need to read, but you know what I'm saying? We need to flip through the pages of them. I guess we should start with like why and how did literacy and literature become something that was a passion for the two of you?
Go ahead. Oh, me?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, my mother was a librarian.
Yeah.
So I spent and I was an only child. So I spent a lot of time in the library. You know, my babysitter was the library.
Yeah.
And so I've been reading and a lot. I was fortunate enough to have books in the house a lot. So it's always been something that's been really a big important part of my life.
Okay.
And then I wanted to act since I was so little. So I was doing that all of the time. But I was always reading and I was always enjoying writing. And so now it's not a huge surprise to anybody that knows me really that I'm writing.
It was more of a surprise that acting was a thing. You know, the writing was like, we knew Karyn was going to become a writer.
Yeah, it wasn't a big surprise. I mean, the acting, I've been saying it since I was like 6.
Yeah.
So that had to happen. It had to happen, had to have its place. But it wasn't that huge surprise, I think, for people that knew me well, probably, that I would end up where I am now.
Yeah, and what about you, Mychal? Libraries, man. How was it that you found your joy and your passion to share, you know, what we can go in and have access to, you know, and you really put your heart out there for us?
Yeah, you know, I've always loved libraries. I mean, grew up in libraries too, raised by libraries. They have library card tattooed
Yeah, man.
on my arm. I was homeschooled from kindergarten through junior year of high school. So
Really?
Senior year is the only year I went to normal high school. So
Okay.
I went to libraries once a week. I'm a homeschool kid.
Yeah.
I'm a PBS kid. I'm a library kid. My mom was like, we're going to educate you with homeschooling because we want you to know about Black history.
Yeah.
My mom is Mexican. My father is Black. We want you to know your Mexican history.
Oh,
We want you to know Black history. We want you to know about Bessie Coleman, about Frederick Douglass, about all these heroes.
Oh, my
that
gosh.
We have to talk about. We have to tell their story. And I just kept on reading book after book. I was that kid who wanted to read every single book in the
Everyone.
section, but authors kept on writing new books.
Yeah.
So I couldn't accomplish,
He's like, "Can't stop."
I couldn't accomplish my dream. And then eventually I just became a librarian, and the dream that I didn't know was a dream came true.
Isn't it amazing to find like your passion, you know, to be able to have a paycheck at times show up, and I say at times show up when you get to live your passion, but to be able to follow that and to get lost in the aisles of books in libraries. As a kid, what was that like for you to just walk through the halls and just be like, wow, I can choose that one, I can have access to that one, I could go anywhere?
It was miraculous for me. Like it was so much wonder. I'm a kid who I suffered from anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. But books were always my friends. Like these are like Ramona and Beezus.
There we go.
Junie Bad and Bougie Jones. And then I read Bud Not Buddy, and Bud Not Buddy was like the first book where I was like, hey, that's a character who looks like me.
Are they tatted anywhere on your
Bud
arm
Not Buddy
yet?
is not quite yet. I mean, I still have all this room.
There you go. You have time. You have time.
But so much imagination, so much curiosity, and just like going into these different worlds and just saying like, I'm a part of this.
Yeah.
I'm a part of this person's mindset, their perspective, their story.
And before we started rolling the cameras in here, we were all fanboying and fangirling over the two of you being here. But I have to bring this story up, Karyn, about the fangirl moment for you when it was Judy Blume.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
We got to share this story because it's so precious.
A big fangirl moment. Yeah, I went to Key West with my family. We went on a trip to Key West, Florida. And somewhere along the line, before we got there, it hit me that, wait a minute, I think I heard that Judy Blume has a store here, has a bookstore. So when I got there, I had to, I found it. And then, you go through the whole period of being like really nervous about what am I going to do? They were really cool, on the phone about like when she's there. I guess they're used to people that, are completely.
Want to pop in.
Yeah, geeks over her. And I went, and they said, she's over there. You might want to like move over toward the office. She's coming out. And so I went over and I finally got up the guts to start talking to her and just geek.
Just did it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just turned into a kid. I just turned into a little kid. But she's
Special.
so gracious
Yeah.
and so generous with her time, and she's used to it. She's used to people like me just like cheesing and.
But to find that that in your heart, to know that her words and that your words now, as you guys are creating, are able to make people feel and emote. What as a writer, what does that feel like?
Oh, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think of anything like that, because her books meant so much to me.
Yeah.
When I do visit kids and talk to kids about the books that I've written, it means so much to hear their perspective, the things they take away, things that you've forgotten or you weren't thinking of it that way, that they have a unique perspective.
For
and
sure.
So when they're reading it, they come away with things that it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I didn't realize that. And when those moments happen,
When
it
it
really
clicks.
feels special. It feels like you really connect.
And I feel like that's probably the purpose of, I've got it written here. I was telling Michael earlier, you can't read my notes because I write like, I'm using my feet, but Sweet Blackberry. And knowing that there is, an intent purpose behind letting folks and people know that it's not just Black history, it's our history.
Yes.
So to be able to, to share those stories and to educate, how important is it that we provide opportunities for people to get the knowledge that it's tough nowadays to find it, unfortunately. But you're being an advocate and letting folks know it is there. You just gotta ask.
Yeah, but ask a librarian.
Yeah, exactly. So to write those stories and bring those to life, how important is it not only to create but also to read and to share and to be able to let people know that they are out there?
No, I honestly think it's vital that those stories are being created. That we're having the Jason Reynolds, the Jerry Crafts, the Kelly Yangs.
Awesome.
All these people are telling stories when they weren't there for the longest time. I mean, I'm getting ready to turn 35 years old, and like I mentioned, Bud Not Buddy was the first story where I saw myself represented. And like we think kids don't want to see it, but they love it. I think I saw far more white kids when I was a children's librarian, where they were ecstatic to see a Black kid on the cover.
That's
They would run to the class, and they would be like, "It looks like you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read your story," and they're like, "That's not my story. That's not my name, but
amazing.
I'm so excited for you." And we think about, like, we're celebrating Black History Month.
Yes.
And like for me, there's a time where Black people weren't allowed to read and write.
Yeah.
My grandmother, she lived to be 90 years old, and she didn't have a library card. As a kid,
Goodness.
she couldn't visit libraries. And now her grandson bothers people about libraries and literacy all the time.
When you're right there,
it's such a blessing.
When you're talking about how easy is it to get a library card?
It's as far as I know, it's super easy.
Yeah.
I'm from California. You really just need a picture ID
Boom.
and proof of address. Unless you were me, I was like, I'm gonna find a way to get you a
Yeah,
library
I'm
card.
gonna make it
Write
happen.
your address on this sticky note. I'm sorry, library people. That's not protocol, but people need a library
People
card.
need
and
library
it should be easy. And I think the best part about libraries is you don't even need a library card to be in that library. You can just go sit in the chair and you can just read Karyn's books. You can read all these books, and you could be there all day. Library people do eventually have to go home. Too. But while libraries
We still
are
gotta
open,
eat.
You can dive into these stories.
I think people forget, or they don't realize how much there is at the library. I mean, there's all of these books, but you also, I mean, for me, I love to be able to, if I think of a book, I often go to bookstores because I love being in bookstores, and I have to remind myself, take a picture of that book. Take a picture of that book.
Yes.
I go back and I go into my library, into the computer, and I ask my library to get it for me.
And boom.
And I don't have to pay for it. I get it from the library. It's also very easy. I mean, when my kids were small, I hadn't been a regular at the library for a while until my kids were little, and then we were there
all the time.
all the time. But it was amazing. It was such a great, there were so many things there that were great. It was such a sense of community. We were there at certain times of day. It was really a sense of community and so much fun and wonder, and I don't know. And for me, like I said, I get excited, and it feels like my childhood all over again when I'm surrounded by all these books.
Michael mentioned reading Karyn's books. You're holding one there. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. How high the moon.
This was my first novel.
What did that novel mean to you? Not only creating it, but to see it through and to watch it come to fruition.
It was kind of crazy. I had been writing for my organization, Sweet Blackberry. I had been writing the stories, and we were making short animated films. They weren't books yet.
Yeah.
And so I had been writing those, but I still wasn't thinking of myself that I was actually writing yet. I wasn't giving myself permission to own that. And but other people were calling me an author already. I wasn't.
Okay.
And a friend of mine who was watching what I was doing with Sweet Blackberry said, I think it's time you write a novel. And he had become a literary agent.
Oh, wow.
And so he's like, I think you need to write a novel.
It's about
and
time.
that seemed crazy.
Yeah.
And way out of reach, out of my range. But I gave it a shot. And How High the Moon was inspired by my mom's childhood growing up in the Jim Crow South.
Wow.
And I started asking her a lot of questions about what that was like, because she was always saying it was also, beautiful and rainbows and
Yeah, for
unicorns,
sure.
and
As
so
parents
happy.
do to make sure that we are comfortable as kids.
Right, but
Yeah.
I said, well, wait a minute, you grew up in South Carolina in the 40s. You
Yeah.
can tell me a little bit more about this. And so I dug a little bit deeper, and I started to find out more about what her childhood was like, and how she did, in fact, in spite of everything, had a really beautiful childhood. But it was wonderful to be able to put it down and create this world. And she saw and said, I can't believe you did that. How did you do that? Because she recognized this whole
All these
world, the
things.
backdrop of it. And it was just a great experience. And I love that with writing and sharing with other people that way.
Before we get into was the 25th anniversary of Donors Choose, whoop whoop. I want to hang on. I want to hang on what you said about taking a chance and how it even relates to what you were doing. In the pandemic, when you were thinking, man, this TikTok dancing Charlie D'Amelio ain't for me, but let me share my love of books and literacy and being a librarian and being able to connect. You took a chance to find this new technology, to find a way to let people know about what your passion was. How scary was it to, put yourself out there and to think like, wow, the world is going to be looking, but I just have to do what I feel is right.
Yeah. You know what? It was super scary. Honestly, it still is terrifying.
Yeah, it's frightening, man. People try to get me to do TikTok dances around here, and I'm like, man.
Yeah. You know what? I did a TikTok dance at first, and TikTok was like, we're your intrusive thoughts. We know you have no rhythm. We agree with you. And I was like, thanks for agreeing.
Yeah, thank you, TikTok.
And a library kid tried to get me to do a Fortnite dance, and I thought I hit it perfectly.
Nah,
just as they
it's
showed
tough.
me, and they said, Mr.
Yeah.
Michael, worst.
Yeah,
worst dance
let's not do
ever.
that. No.
So I said, you know what? People don't know that libraries exist. That yes, we're all about books, but there's musical instrument collections.
Yeah.
There's video game collections. There's
Yes.
seething libraries. There really is something for everybody at the library, wherever
For
you're
sure.
at in life. And I was like, but no one knows this. So
You know
let
what
me get
I
on the internet.
you know what I love about that is that and when I get the chance to talk to a lot of artists and musicians and they create and they try to create something to create a hit song. They try to create something that's going to go to the top of the chart and it doesn't feel like them.
Yeah.
And what really connects is when they do something that feels like them. And that's truly what's happening. It's you. You know what I mean? You've got the ink to prove it, man.
All of it.
Space to put James the Giant Peach one day. You
never
know what I mean? But you're doing you, and that's what we are all connecting.
Oh, well, I have
on.
to just jump in there.
Yeah,
because
please do.
Way before I ever met Mychal, when I found Mychal
Yeah.
on social media, I was so excited to find him. I was
Same.
telling everybody.
Same.
Because I'm like, oh my God, he's amazing. He's got this hair, this smile,
Yeah.
he's tatted, and he's got. I think you have Grover on here.
I do have
someplace.
it.
Yeah,
the
there
monster at the end of
is.
this
And the
book,
monster
yeah.
at the end of this book, which I found out really scared my son. I didn't know that. I just found that out the other day. But the thing is, I loved your authenticity so much. You were so authentically yourself, and with your joy, you give everyone permission to be authentically and completely themselves and their joyous self too. Which I think, and I know that there are struggles, but I think it's so beautiful that you share that with everybody. I'm going on too much.
No.
But seriously, I do think that it's so important and how it affects other people and how the impact that you have just by being completely you.
Yeah. I mean,
know?
that's truly it. You deserve your flowers, brother. You know what I mean? Like you're
That's
doing,
kind.
the both of you are doing the world a tremendous service, and truly, and using your platforms. And this is the radio guy in me segueing back over to Donors Choose in the building. You get to be a part of something that is really important, and tell us how you all got really to be a part of the Donors Choose family. How did that happen?
Oh,
Wanna go first, yeah.
well, with me, I became friends through my work with taking Sweet Blackberry around and my books as an author going around. I ended up meeting Nicholas Ferroni, who is a
Mutual friend, yeah,
who is a wonderful history teacher in New Jersey, and he connected me with Donors Choose. and then connected me again with them. And I love what Donors Choose is about. We've been going on and on about this, but it's true. With Donors Choose, what's so wonderful is that the teachers can be very specific about what
Yes.
their needs are for the classroom and for their students. And so that you, as somebody who wants to contribute and help, not only do you see where your money is going, you can actually be inspired by what the project is that the teacher has going on in the classroom. You can get excited and go, oh, I want to help with that. I want to help make this thing happen. And I think that that's how it works really well, so that it's a completely collaborative.
It's very transparent, and that's what I love. It's exactly it. It's like, if a teacher needs 3 boxes of pencils that are, the color of the rainbow, you can give right there. If it's for someone that's in your neighborhood, if it's for someone who's across the country, I mean, there are so many different ways. How special is it for parents and those who are able to give to know that there are opportunities like with Donors Choose to contribute? Because as we look at the way that the world is going a little bit now, it's increasingly difficult, but if we do our part, we can still continue to make sure that kids get the education and the necessary tools to learn.
Yeah, we're living in truly unprecedented times.
Yeah.
And we need to help our educators. We need to help our teachers. My mom is a high school teacher, so teachers,
awesome.
As much as I love librarians, I love teachers. They mean a lot to my heart.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's perfect about Donors Choose is, like you were saying, it's a chance for the teachers to tell their story, but not just their story, their classroom story, because all those little kids, those elementary kids, those high school kids, they need something specific, and this is your chance to say, oh, I'm helping them with exactly what they need. It may not be a blanket $100, $1,000 donation.
Yeah.
It is, but it's so much more. It's like, but this is exactly what they need. I'm being a helper for their needs, not what I think they need, but what they're asking for.
It's going to a lesson plan that's going to be directly, just focused on a purpose. And to all the educators who, and I think we can all collectively say, don't get paid nearly enough. Whatever we can do to be there to support from our end, I think that's truly what's special. So one time for 25 years for Donors Choose, y'all. There we go. Before we get y'all out of here, I gotta just pick your brain. Let's go back to just like little tiny tater tot, Mychal and Karyn. First book that really made you, I think you kind of said it, but what is that first book that really made you like, because for me, I think I mentioned it was James and the Giant Peach.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I was like, this is
great.
it. Roald Dahl I started going down the rabbit hole. But yeah, who were, or maybe not even the first book, but author. Who was the author that really connected with you when you were younger?
Oh man. So I'm a typical librarian. I cannot give you one answer. I have to give you at least 2. Louis Sacker is one of my favorites. Louis Sacker wrote Wayside School.
Okay.
He also wrote Holes, and one of my cats is named Kissing Cat Barlow. So she's named after a character from Holes. But Beverly Cleary.
Oh
My
gosh!
She's my all-time hero.
Were either of you? I'll ask you the same, but were either of you a Choose Your Own Adventure book kid?
Yes.
Oh, do you remember those? Those are the ones where you go to the page and it would say go to page 75. At the end of the page, you would skip around. That got me right there. Was it Judy Blume, Karyn? It was.
Hook, line, and sinker. I was Judy all the way.
I got to give love to my little sister, who I know had the entire collection of the Babysitters Club. That right there was a vibe. Hold on, I wrote down some other here in my chicken scratch handwriting here. Oh, what about as an adult? What are those books that you like to recommend, not only to other kids, but other adults that they need to be aware of that they can maybe, teach their kids about? Is there any particular book now that kind of sparks your interest?
That's a good one.
To teach kids about, or for adults?
Let's go with adults. As an adult, so like, oh yeah, this is one that I just stumbled upon. Now, what is
I don't know about stumbled upon. Gosh, I can't think about just stumbled upon.
Are you intentional with the books that you?
I have so many books that I have meaning to read.
Okay.
I try.
TBR.
I mean, as much as I love
TBR.
seeing books, I've gotten to where I have so many books, I've had to get rid of the books that I've read, even though I want to hold on to them, because I need to have room for all of the many books that I intend to read. So, it took me a while to finally read Toni Morrison.
Okay.
And then I had to read all of Toni Morrison. And it was not easy. At first, I've tried Beloved first.
Okay.
Because everyone's like, Beloved. But my first go around with Beloved didn't go well. I was like, what? What am I reading?
Yeah.
What?
It's hard.
It was really hard. And then I went back and I read The Bluest Eye.
Okay.
And I loved it. And I half read it and I half listened to Toni
Tell it.
read it herself.
Audiobooks.
And Toni Morrison, if you can get Toni Morrison reading her own stuff.
Oh, that's different.
Woo,
Yeah.
It's a beautiful
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. You know what? I'm going to pause that question because one of the things I failed to talk about in this conversation is you're starting a new podcast.
Yeah.
Can we learn a little bit about the podcast and how you're allowing people to, to feel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it already. It's going to be called Thoughts About Feelings.
Yeah.
It's with myself and co-hosted by Blair Amani Ali, who does Smarter in Seconds on the internet.
So cool.
And we're just trying to have honest conversations about thoughts about feelings, people being able to be vulnerable to talk about. I mean, of course, we're going to talk about books, we're going to talk about literacy, but it's just open conversations about things that matter. And it's up to the guests, it's up to our friends on the show just to talk about it. And we just want to spread hope, spread wonder, and hopefully remind a few people that they're not as alone as they thought they were.
I gotta say, man, with this conversation right here, I hope everybody that's watching, that's listening, understands that you are not, and to know that there are two amazing people that are just there to carry the torch. I don't know if you feel that you are carrying the torch, but just to know that you're moving this, this movement along is like really, really special. I am gonna go into my pocket for one quick little bit here because I just want to see if we can play a little game of finish the lyric. Yeah. And I think we know how this goes. Hold on. Here it goes. I can do anything in a book. Is it reading rainbow? I gotta show love to my new family. You guys are part of my family now. I hope you understand that, Michael. Oh man, the king of books is LeVar Burton. He said it right there, man. The GOAT. Give it up one time for a couple of other GOATs right here. This is Karyn Parsons. This is Mychal Threets. Round of applause, and thank you guys for being here hanging. I had to play Reading Rainbow. We had to show love to LeVar. Oh my gosh.